On this episode of Hudson Valley Hustle, I'm joined by self-made millionaire Charlotte Guernsey. Charlotte owns several businesses here in the Hudson Valley, but they all started because of one purchase. Hope you get a lot of value out of this interview. Enjoy. I think we should probably just start by you giving an overview of all the businesses that you're involved in, because it's a pretty big gamut that you run.
Okay. All right. So first of all, real estate. That's where I started. So right now I run a real estate team under Compass, which for 20 years I ran my own real estate brokerage. And then I also, with my husband, run a wedding venue. And from there, that kind of spun off into a bridal boutique. And then my husband has his own company as well, which ironically is a divorce law firm and family law.
So as a couple,
yes,
you can get people married.
Yep.
You can get them the dresses. You can get them
Yep.
divorced and then remarried.
Yep.
If need be.
Selling the house. Usually
That's
start
true,
a little
yeah.
bit. You got to order. Usually it's the dress, get married, sell the house. And then if they get tired of the house, their spouse divorced, and then they could do it again.
And then do it again.
Oh, and I forgot. I do painting too.
I was going to ask you
So
about
design,
the art
I
too.
always
Yep.
forget. But really the design is really stems the entire thing, because it's all about creativity behind it all.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
what the drive is behind even the real estate. I got into real estate because I was interested in the design of spaces.
So you're in a lot of different things. I don't know how you manage all of those
Yeah.
different things, because they're all in
It's a lot.
pretty different spaces. I mean, it's not like it's all the same thing. You own
Right.
multiple franchises of the same type.
Right.
It's a
Right,
lot of
right.
different
Right.
areas. So where did you get your start? You started in real estate, right?
Right.
What was that like? Like, take me back to the beginnings of that. Where did that begin?
Well, I think it really began with the idea at a very young age that I wanted to be financially free. And I knew that for some reason that money gave you power and freedom. And I didn't want to be tied to anything. So I didn't know I wanted to get into real estate. I wanted to get into art. But, kind of started with, I was going to art school and I tagged along with my sister, who was shopping for a house one day in Boston. And I realized that, after seeing 5 houses, that, this is really easy. Like, this is what you should buy and why. And from that moment on, I was like, I'm going home, back to my hometown, and I'm getting into real estate. And that was the beginning of my real estate career.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then you started with a commercial space first, or did you buy your own space first and then go from there?
Well, I thought I wanted to buy a house.
Okay.
I mean, everyone, save my money. I was living at home, saving my money, started in real estate as a salesperson. And it wasn't until I got into business that I learned that you don't really want to have your first purchase as a single family house, because you're always a slave to that payment. And that was a really eye-opener experience. And my life could have gone in 2 very different directions had I made that decision. So I decided to buy the biggest property I could that was an investment property.
Okay.
So I wanted...
How old? How old were you at that point?
my early 20s.
Okay.
So in 98, I got my real estate license, graduated college in 97, and I was probably 22, maybe 20. I was 25 when I bought the building.
Gotcha. Okay.
And lived in the building. It was a 6-unit building. Actually, 8-unit building, 6 apartments and 2 commercials.
Okay.
It was kind of a mess, up-and-coming area. And that was the start of it all, because I was able to put myself in a position where it was a real foundation to everything I did after that. And because I was able to live at a very low overhead, have bills paid for me.
Right.
And from that point, I was able to open my own business within there and start my own company. And Beacon in the late 90s was a time of opportunity, and I saw the potential of it, and I sold that city with passion. I was extremely excited about what that city could be. It had all the bones of something very exciting. And, it was something I was very passionate about. And I think when you're starting a business, your heart and soul goes into it. And I was living upstairs. I was basically living downstairs too in my office. So much so that I developed my office. I thought it would be really quiet in my real estate office because I didn't know any better. And I actually developed my art studio behind my real estate office. And I put north skylights in so I could paint. But real estate takes over your life. So if you want to get into real estate, it is a full-time gig if you're doing it right. And I never really had the time to paint in my studio down there.
Okay.
And I basically lived in my office other than sleeping upstairs. But I probably worked in real estate my first 10 years, like 70, 80 hours a week. And I knew that market in and out. I saw everything on the market. I could tell you exactly what was selling and why and who was seeing properties and where the market was going in and out. Sold buildings up and down Main Street, some of them 2-3 times over. And, it's a real asset to the people coming in and out. Not just your first-time home buyers or your bread and butter clients, but to developers, because to them, they want to know how you should develop these properties, and that's where your value comes in as an agent. What should you do with the properties? So that's where I got into selling some of the big factory buildings along the creek there. So
That's wild. How much of this was, it sounds like your timing was like impeccable. You bought it at probably the most perfect time, because now you look at Beacon and it's almost not accessible for a brand new.
There is the element of luck for sure that I was in the right place at the right time. However, there was a lot of people who could have done what I did that didn't. And in fact, when I was a young girl in my early 20s, everyone around me was telling me, "What, are you crazy? Don't do it." And I said, "I'm doing it." So I had to, when I bought my building, even my attorney was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? You sure you know what you're doing?" Everyone tried to talk me out of buying my building. And, but I did it. And sometimes you just have to follow your gut and believe in what you think is right, despite what people are saying to you. And not only just, I bought my building in 99 and I started doing a major renovation on it in 2001. And at that time, I was told I didn't know what I was doing and I would run out of money. And I'm in amongst all these big burly male contractors telling me, no, and I had to just figure it out and do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to forget about everything around you and bunker down and really look at the facts and figure it out and not worry about what's around you.
And you figured it out, and you did. You
Yes.
did figure it out.
Right.
So you said that building kind of was a springboard for everything that you're doing now. So like if you hadn't took that huge risk in your early 20s, do you think you would have been able to do the things you're doing now?
No, absolutely not. Because I had that strong foundation at that point. So, each thing was like a building block to the next. So having, your living expenses low and then having a place to run your business with your overhead low. In a real estate, it's not like you have your largest expense usually when you're in business. One of the largest is your labor. Real estate, most of your people under you are run on commission. So it's a good way to start. So not only you're not paying for your rent, but you don't have that labor. So plus I was also hustling within it. And Beacon was popping in the early 2000s. So I was making good money there and then reinvesting constantly into what I was doing, buying more property, and just constantly, reinvesting in myself and what I was doing. And
you can't be afraid to reinvest in yourself.
Right.
Like
Yes.
it's, you are the asset, right? Nothing happens without you making those moves.
You need to be willing to make sacrifices. So I think that, and I always try to tell my clients, especially my younger clients, like in their early 20s, and not a lot of people want to do this. And you're probably guilty of this, Joan. I'm sorry.
Of what?
Like not wanting to go ahead and play house.
What do you mean?
So I want to tell my people, don't be such in a rush to go play house and have your first property be that single family house.
Well, that's mine. Yeah, that's
right.
A lot
because
of
then
people,
you're stuck in that. You have to go to work or whatever you're doing to make that payment. Whereas if your first purchase is something that's going to make you money, then you're in a totally different path.
Right.
But it's a sacrifice.
I was going to say, how many people have it in them to manage that?
Not many people want to do it that way.
Because now you're dealing with tenants, you're dealing with a business, you're dealing with taxes, you're dealing with the state, you're dealing with all this other bullshit that you don't have to deal with if you just go and play house, as you say.
Right.
It's not for everybody.
Right.
But you think everybody should do it.
So I had a client who was I used to have these investment properties 20 years ago and I sold them all because the tenants annoyed me. Mm-hmm. But if he had just dealt with that, those properties would be worth $30 million today.
Yeah, sure. Especially lately, right? With how,
yeah. So it's not a glamorous job being a landlord.
Right. But
the sacrifices that you make, especially when you're younger, can really make a difference. Yeah. Especially the order that you do things. So there were a couple of books that I read at that time period of my life that really made a big difference. Mm-hmm. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay. Yep.
Are you familiar?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And his other book, Cash Flow Quadrant.
Okay. That one I didn't read, but Rich Dad. Absolutely.
Robert
Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki. Yes. Yep. Excellent books. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in becoming a self-made millionaire, and you don't know those books, definitely read them.
Yeah.
Because it's a great way to get ahead. And those were life-changing for sure.
Yep. But again, you took that risk young, right? You took it at an early age. You were single, I assume, right? At the time, weren't married, right? Didn't have kids, didn't have the responsibilities that...
Yes.
Right?
And that's also a good time to do it.
Yeah,
you can,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Put in all that sweat equity. Because it took everything I had to buy that building at that time. So when I was young, it brought me pleasure to go and make money. I was doing the typical kid things, babysitting, returning cans, mowing lawns, all that kid stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And, when I felt sad, I would count my money. It sounds really weird, but it, I guess, brought me a little bit of confidence. Okay. It made me feel better.
Sure.
And I guess it goes back to that feeling like I had a sense of power. Mm-hmm. I guess some girls would develop an eating disorder because they had a sense of power over their body, whereas I would count my money. It's so weird. I know.
No, this is good. This is like origin story, it's all coming together,
So, and for some reason at a very young age, it was I knew that money had a way of power and control. And if I had those things, I could do whatever I wanted.
Right.
If you have...
It gave you freedom, right?
Exactly.
It gives you freedom to do the things you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then it really, even with that understanding, I went into my early 20s thinking I wanted to buy a house. So it wasn't until I got into real estate and I remember I was showing houses to an investor and he told me, he's like, no, you want to buy your first property as an investment. And it was like a light bulb. I was like, oh. And I remember I grew up in Garrison, in my parents' house in Garrison where I was staying, and I totally recommend milking that as far as you can.
Living at home as long as you can?
Oh, yeah, because you want to live below your means and really save up, and so I was doing that, and a light bulb went off, beacon. beacons, land of opportunity.
Yeah.
And this was late 90s. As it was starting to pop already.
Right.
I was like, oh. And then at that point, I started to just walk up and down Main Street. And then someone started following me and told me, you're looking for a building, aren't you? And that's how it started.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So that basically, your take, I guess, is real estate is a really powerful way to be able to kind of unlock opportunities. So you're somebody that sees an opportunity, jumps on it, right?
Yes.
Did the same thing happen with the other businesses that you're in? Because
so I think real estate's a great way to build long-term wealth. And even today, I know like it's real estate right now is super high and the rates are high, and like the younger generation is like really struggling because it's so hard to get into, and they just feel like completely they don't know what to do.
yeah,
But I do feel like there is a way. I mean, I'm closing on a house tomorrow for a client that he's getting a great deal. I mean, the sellers are friends too, so they're good too. But there's still there's still opportunities out there. You just have to know what to look for, and there's still ways to live cheaply. So like another one of my agents, even though she didn't go multifamily route, she's doing Airbnb within her house.
Okay.
And she's living for very little. So there's ways to get clever to still do it. But
is the Airbnb thing still a good route right now?
well, we do it at our primary residence.
Okay.
Yep. It's not as good as it used to be. I think it's having a lull. But it's still cash flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you could do it as part of where you live, I mean, that
Right.
helps
It's just
dramatically
extra.
offset
Yeah.
your living costs for
Yeah.
sure. But you got to also be comfortable with having strangers on your property
Right.
and
Again,
dealing
it
with
goes
that
back
too.
to sacrifices.
What are you willing to deal with, right?
Right. But going back to your question of real estate, so I said it's a great way to build wealth. So one of the properties we bought a few years ago, so 1 East Main Street is a commercial building, and I'd sold the factory building to a client, and I was showing the property as a redevelopment, and I was doing my spiel, and as I was doing it, I was convincing myself to buy it. Sometimes this happens. And I went home that night to Dennis, and I was like, you know what, we should buy this thing. I was like, because what can you buy? And that's this price. That's also this and this and this. So he's like, all right, whatever. So it was like, okay.
Right.
So we decided to buy it. And then I was like, the next day, I was like, you know what, we should buy the one next to it too, because why not? They're identical, same price, same square footage. He's like, okay. And I was like, because then we'll have two. And then we've got 2 kids. And then it'll be like a good little like rental property. Like
Nice.
They could learn how to like collect the rents and manage them and be cute. Then I was like, oh, you know what? This is going to be so pretty as a bridal shop, because even though at the time it was boarded up with dirt floors and just a complete shell, like
Yeah.
you couldn't see anything, but I could see because, again, my
You had
background's
that
in
creative
fine art.
vision. You've got
Right.
that. Yep.
I knew it was going to have high 13-foot ceilings, exposed brick, these huge, massive beams, and the polished concrete floors. I'm like, this is going to be so pretty as a bridal shop. We've got a roundhouse venue. We've got the
Right.
brewery venue on the other side. Our venue's a mile up the hill. And honestly, there's kind of a hole in the market for this. Like a really pretty bridal shop. Like what's around is a little bit tired, no offense. But like I have nothing about retail, nothing. Like my background's in real estate.
Sure.
Right? I don't want to sit there. No way. So, but I love the idea. I love the idea of styling the shop because again, that's my thing. Love design, love to build things. So I was like, all right, here's what I'll do. I'll create this like Lamb's Hill, because we already had the venue at that time. I'll create Lamb's Hill Bridal Hub, and I'll get like some tenants. I'll get a dress tenant. I'll get like photography and a jewelry tenant, and I'll create this little Lamb's Hill
yeah.
Bridal Hub.
Little hub, yeah.
And I'll style this thing. Done. Got I got the tenants and the photography and the jewelry actually ended up wanting to rent next door. So I was like, that'll work. We'll put you next door. The dress wanted that one. I built the whole thing out for her. Right before the lease was supposed to start, she backed out. Now, I've already built this whole thing specifically for a bridal shop.
Wait, so this was for somebody else?
Yes.
I don't think I knew that. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that's a bomb.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? So either rent it, just
Right.
put it on the market, rent it as an option, or I still love the idea of a bridal shop, you know. So I actually coincidentally, a year prior to that, we had hosted for free one of the largest bridal shop or bridal companies in the country at our venue to do a photo shoot. So I called up the president. I was like, hey, how's this work? And he talked me through the whole thing. He was super like generous and passionate about like the whole like idea and what I should do. And he's like, you know what? The bridal show's in New York City like in 2 weeks. And it was October. He's like, come on down. We'll show you our lines. So we went down and I was like, I don't know. Should I do this? Whatever. Let's give it a try. I totally thought I would lose money and get tired of losing money in a couple of years and shut down, you know? But I was like, whatever. It'll be fun. It'll be pretty. It'll be good for the venue, whatever.
Sure.
So I gave it a whirl, and we opened up in this little shop. And luckily we had next door, but I had a tenant next door.
Okay.
But I quickly learned that, you know, we needed more space. Mm-hmm. So luckily I was able to buy the space on the other side of me, which was still available. What I learned opening the bridal shop is, you know, when you open any kind of business, you need to put yourself into it. Even if, like I said before, I wasn't going to sit there and sell dresses all day long because I can't do that. But you do need to dive in and learn every aspect of that business from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So I did dive in, and I was a stylist. And what I learned about being a bridal stylist is sales are sales. So I'd been a real estate salesperson since the 90s. Now, we opened a bridal shop in 2017. So for almost 20 years, I'd been in real estate sales by that time. So sales are sales. So what makes you good in sales is really listening to your client, really understanding what they're looking for, and then really knowing what inventory you have available to show that person. So if you can do that well, you're going to do well in sales. Mm-hmm. And then just having like a really like positive demeanor and friendly, like those things together will make you good in sales no matter what the sales are.
Mm-hmm. I always say a good salesperson can sell any product.
Yeah.
And we actually just did a video on this the other day. Good salespeople spend more time listening than they do talking.
Yeah. So I had no idea. So I'm like, wait a minute. I actually do know something about this
That's
business.
right. Just swap the product. Just swap the product and apply the same principles. Just swap the product.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, maybe I do know about this.
Yeah.
So,
but my question though is, you didn't want to be in there every day selling dresses. So how do you grow a team of people then, right? That can do that for you.
So I hired at the time about 3 sales stylists.
Okay.
You know, and we were looking for people with fashion backgrounds, you know, sales, artsy, fun, stylish girls that you'd want to style your dress from. You know, another thing I do when I'm building a business is I always put myself in the position of the consumer. Like, if I were shopping for a dress, what would I want? Mm-hmm. What would I want to see? What would I want the store to look like? What would I want the price point to be for this area? And what would the construction of the dresses? So I think because I was able to work with a vendor that has a great quality dresses and a certain price point that's very friendly to the Hudson Valley. So like from $1,500 to $2,500, but dresses that are really well made. like a really great breadth of variety from like boho to super glam to like everything in between. That like, and then the shop, I designed so beautifully. I brought the entire venue basically down to retail. So it's got horses. I did an entire series of paintings just for the shop, all inspired from the horses. And we have a life-size horse there, and we have vines, and the ceilings have foliage dripping down on their chandeliers, and it's just very wild and romantic, and everything feels like you're at an event. So it's not like this sterile box that you feel like when you go to other retail stores.
Sure.
It's special. So it's a very romantic setting, and that's what it should be like when you're shopping for a bridal gown. It's an event, and it should be.
Sure.
And then you want good value for what you're buying, and you want a pleasant experience. So I feel like hitting those marks is what made us successful. So, and then getting more products. So we quickly needed to grow in size.
Okay.
So we were able to expand from one little space to 2 spaces to 3 spaces to 4 spaces. So we expanded quickly. Luckily, I was able to acquire square footage.
Yeah.
So I was able to get, now I've gone from retail 2 to 3 to 4. So
Lamb's Hill is 4 wide? Is it 4 wide? Holy cow.
4 bays wide.
Yeah, that's wild.
Lamb's Hill Bridal Boutique. And then the tenants moved out, so we absorbed that space as well.
Gotcha.
So we are 4 bays wide at 1 East Main Street.
Wow.
It's a nice big space there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's pretty. It's a very pretty space.
Do you think...
And we won Best of the Hudson Valley, I think 5 times now.
Oh, that's awesome.
5 or 6
Good for
times
you.
now. So, yeah.
Doing
it's
something
amazing,
right.
amazing considering I thought I would be going out of business.
Yeah, but it all started because somebody bailed.
Yeah. I never would have thought I would be opening a bridal shop, ever.
Wow.
Ever.
I feel like...
Never like a dream. Like I always want, like never a dream of mine. Never would have thought.
But you put your own spin on it, right? And I think that's probably why a lot of what you do is successful, is because you inject basically your style, your philosophy into it.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to follow their gut and to make it their own. Yeah. I listened to a podcast about Drunk Elephant. It's a skincare line.
Okay.
And she was saying that people hated the name. Like, you can't name it that. But she's like, you got to go with your gut. And it's a great story. So.
Drunk Elephant?
Yes.
Is the name of it? Okay.
Yes, and it has to do with the secret ingredient that comes from a fruit that the elephants would eat that's fermented, and it would make them.
That's wild.
Drunk. So.
The one other thing I wanted to touch on with you was, so you managed obviously 4 or 5 different businesses with different teams.
Yes.
Among all of them. How do you manage so many different people?
Yeah.
In different industries?
Yes.
How's that?
Well, the hardest group of people I manage are my kids.
Really?
Being a parent is the hardest. So shout out to all those parents out there, because even with all those businesses, oh my God, I don't have to repeat myself to any group of people more than that group.
Oh, that's the truth. That is the truth.
So 7 and 9-year-olds right there. So yes, going to work is like a vacation compared to that. So I know your wife is a stay-home.
Yeah. She lives for it. She lives for it.
God bless her.
I still don't know how she does it, because
you have 1, right?
2.
Oh, you have 2 now.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So
almost
God bless
almost
her.
8 and almost 4. So
Oh,
7
Lord.
and 3.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, sometimes coming to work is
It's easier.
It's easier. It's 100%.
Yes.
It's 100%
Yes.
easier. Even though I spend more time doing this
Yes.
than I spend doing that.
Yes.
And I think that's just the nature of
Yes.
doing your own thing.
Yes.
But it is challenging.
So I think each group of people are different.
Yeah.
So like my bridal shop people are so different than my real estate group
Yeah.
of people. And, everybody, it just depends what challenges you're up against each day. But, I really like puzzles. So it makes everything interesting, and it keeps things moving and fun.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I really enjoy the lamb sale business because it is very creative. And I pop in and out of the bridal shop, and we film, and I never thought I'd be buying hundreds of dresses every year and getting to figure out like what's trending and what we're going to be shopping for. Next week I go to Barcelona.
Oh,
so to be
nice.
flown out to Barcelona and put up, I mean, how fun like I never would have thought that'd be my thing. And then we're going to Madrid, and we're going to the soccer game. We're going to see Barcelona.
Oh, that's
Barcelona
awesome.
playing Madrid. So,
that's
yeah,
nuts.
that's pretty fun.
Yeah. All because somebody canceled the lease. I keep going back to that. I'm
know.
like, this is crazy to me. So where can somebody get in touch with you if they want to either, let's see, buy or sell a property, get a wedding gown, have their wedding at a venue, marriage on the rocks, possibly get divorced, maybe commission a painting. Where can somebody contact you?
Okay, so lambsale.com is our wedding venue. And from there, you can find lambsalebridalboutique.com, and charlotteguernsey.com is my painting website. Gatehouse. Is it Gatehouse? Yeah, gatehousecompass.com.
Okay.
For our real estate team. And drvetrano.com, is that his?
That's his.
And what else do I do? I don't know. That's about it.
That's amazing. That's it.
I don't know. I think so.
All right, that's cool. You should probably add a couple more other things to your plate.
I know I'm being a little bit lazy.
Yeah, seriously. Well, thanks so much for coming. This has been like really
Yeah.
good. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon.
Good to see you. Thank you. Thanks, Joe.